Topics in Math 1.4 Part 2, Rational Expressions. All right, to get us ready for this, go ahead and review the fraction problems. Make sure you show your work in finding the common denominator. So pause your screen and do these 4 problems. All right, we need to find a common denominator. So you have to remember to make both denominators the same. We're going to do the same thing today, but with algebraic expressions. Okay? So notice we were thinking like out of that 20, what were we missing? So we had to multiply the top and bottom by that number. And over here, out of the 20, what was the 5 missing? It was missing the 4. So multiply that by the top and bottom. Also, one good thing to remember is that if you have 2 fractions separated, as long as they have the same denominator, you can write them together as one fraction. All right, so let's get down to our problems here. To add or subtract, find the least common denominator. So you'll need to factor, write equivalent factors, add or subtract numerators, and put in lowest terms if possible. All right, so we need to first factor the second one to see what this first one's missing. Probably this first one is missing a factor, but what is it? So x squared, we can break up x and x. Multiply to be 2 would be 2 and 1. Okay, we want it to be, add to be negative 3. So if I have 2x and 1x, how would I make that negative 3? We're going to make both negative. Okay? So that means it's going to say x minus 2 and x minus 1. Doesn't have to be in that order, but those are the 2 things we need. All right, so now we're going to rewrite that x squared plus 3x minus 3x plus 2 as x minus 2 and x minus 1. Okay, so if we look at this first one, we say, what is that denominator missing? It was missing the x minus 2. Okay, what was the numerator missing? It was missing that x minus 2. Okay, so if I rewrite this, I can write out, I'm going to write the x first. X times x minus 2 over x minus 2 times x minus 1. Plus, and then this one wasn't missing anything. So that denominator already had x minus 2 and x minus 1, so we don't have to take the numerator times any number. Okay? So then remember that if you add 2 fractions and the denominator is the same, for example, like 1/4 plus 2/4, you can rewrite that as 1 plus 2 all over 4. So we can rewrite this one as x times x minus 2 plus 2x minus 1 all over x minus 2 times x minus 1, instead of writing it as 2 separate fractions. All right, let's simplify. So you can distribute that x through and add like terms. So we get x squared minus 2x plus 2x, and then minus 1 over x minus 2 times x minus 1. All right, so then you can see that these x's are going to cancel out. So we get x squared minus 1 all over x minus 2 times x minus 1. So then we can factor the top, difference of squares. So x squared minus 1, we can break that apart as x and x. Multiply to be 1, 1 and 1. And then since we want no middle term, one's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. Okay, just one final step on this one, kind of like what we did in the last section. Anything on the top can cancel with anything on the bottom if it's in multiplication form. So these are in factor form, they're being multiplied, so you can cancel. So your final answer should be x plus 1 over x minus 2. All right, let's try another one. So 4 over x squared plus 3x plus x minus 2 all over x squared minus 6x plus 9. All right, so why don't you start factoring the denominators? So go ahead and pause your screen, factor the denominators. Okay, so the first factor, you can take an x out. So we're left with x times x plus 3. And the second one, you can break it apart to be x plus 3 times x plus 3. You could write it as x plus 3 squared if you want. All right, so this time we see what is missing. So what does the second one have that the first one doesn't have? It's missing one of the x plus 3's. Okay, how about the other one? What does it have that the first one doesn't have? And if you can see, it's kind of hiding on this one, but this one has an x. So right there, the x, we had to take both of them times x. Okay, so if I rewrite that, I'm going to just write 4 times x plus 3 plus x times x minus 2. And then all over, remember, we can just write this denominator one time. Okay, x plus 3 squared. So then just distribute. So you get 4x plus 12 plus x squared minus 2x all over x times x plus 3 squared. Okay, and then simplify, see if you can factor. So we get x squared plus 2x plus 12 all over x times x plus 3 squared. Okay, the top doesn't factor. If you try to break it apart, x and x, then you can't get it to multiply to be 12 and add to be 2. All right, the only difference for subtracting is that you need to subtract the entire second fraction there. So we still kind of set it up the same way. We want to factor this first part, x and x, 5 and 1, all plus. Okay, figure out what that first part of the fraction is missing. Missing the x plus 1. So take the top and bottom by x plus 1. And then, so we'll get x plus 1 times x minus 1. And then we need to subtract that entire fraction there. Minus x plus 3. And then we can put it all over x plus 1 times x plus 5. From here we can FOIL this out. So x plus 1 times x minus 1 would be difference of squares. X squared minus 1. Because the 1x and the minus 1x will cancel. Now here's the part that's tricky for subtraction. We want to subtract that entire part. So we need to go minus 1x minus 3. All right, so then we try to simplify it. So we get x squared minus x minus 4 all over x plus 1 times x plus 5. I can see that the numerator is not going to factor because multiply to be 4 would have to be 4 and 1 or 2 and 2, which does not make a 1 on the inside. Okay, so then this will be your answer. All right, go ahead and pause the video and see if you can get the next one. All right, again, don't forget to distribute that -1 through to make sure you get negative 6x and then plus 7. So negative 6x, positive 7. All right, so then your final answer should be x minus 2 over x minus 1. All right, simplify the complex fraction. So we really just have like one fraction over another. So think of this big line as a divided sign. So if I do the numerator, I can see that I'm missing an x plus 1 here and to the top. And then for this one, I was just missing that x. So we'll go times x and times x. So if I rewrite that numerator, it's going to be x plus 1 times x minus 2 plus 2x all over x times x plus 1. So I'm just going to leave that for a minute, and then instead of writing it, keeping it as this big fraction, I'm just going to rewrite it as divided by. That's all that means. So now we need to do this next one here. So if I say, okay, what are we missing? We're missing the x plus 1 for the first fraction. So we get 3 times x plus 1. And then for the second one, I'm missing the x minus 1. So minus x minus 1 all over x plus 1 times x minus 1. So from there, I'm just going to simplify before I start changing it to a multiplication problem. So if I look at this first part here, we could FOIL this out. So we have first, outside, inside, and then last, plus the 2x, all over x times x plus 1. Just leave it as divided. 3x plus 3 minus x plus 1. All right, so then from there, we want to simplify. So we get x squared. We've got a minus 2x plus 1x plus 2x. So it'll just be plus x and then minus 2. Divided by, I'm just going to leave this in factor form for the denominator. We need to simplify the numerator. So 3x minus x would be 2x plus 4. Okay, from there, let's go ahead and rewrite it as a multiplication problem. So keep, change, flip. Remember, you're going to keep the first fraction. You know what? Let's factor it while we go. So keep the first fraction, but I can factor it. So it's going to be x and x. How do I get a 2 and a 1? Positive 1, so it'll be plus 2 minus 1. Times, and then I'm going to go ahead and flip this one. So keep, change, flip. We're going to flip that second fraction. And then what can I factor out of the numerator, which is now the denominator since we flipped it? We can take a 2 out. All right, so now anything on the top row can simplify with anything on the bottom row now that everything is multiplication. So we have the x plus 1s. There's an x plus 2. And it looks like that's it. So we're left with x minus 1 squared all over 2x. Okay. All right, go ahead and pause your video and try this last example. Then you can unpause it to check. So if we look at this one, we see that not much simplifies out. That's fine. That happens sometimes. So the only thing that you can simplify out, remember you're multiplying, that's why we can do this, is those y's. So then you're left with like a 1 up there. So multiply straight across. So x squared plus y all over x times 1 plus y. Okay? All right, your assignment is in the textbook. 1.4 Part 2, page 43, numbers 39 through 55 by 4s. So you'll do 39 and then count 3 in between and do the fourth one. So 43, 3 in between, do the fourth one. So after you do them, you can check your answers in the back of the book. Okay? And then 60, 63, 66, 102, A, B, and F.